What is Cafe Mocha? Experts, celebrities.
Hey, this is John Legend.
Yours truly, Idris Elba.
This is Fantasia.
I am Ian Levinson.
Hey everybody, it's your girl Tamar Braxton.
Music and features from a woman's perspective. Intriguing conversation. The Swag Award. Espresso. The MC Light Mix. Radio from a woman's perspective.
What flavor are you, baby?
This is Cafe Mocha.
It's Cafe Mocha, Angelique, and this weekend we're visiting with Mo Ivory, a therapist, and all kinds of people to talk about whether or not you gotta be black to have a black experience. Yes, we're gonna talk about Rachel Dole-uh-zhal and her desire to be a black woman. I ain't mad at her, I love being a black woman. It's Cafe Mocha. We are talking about blackness and whether you get to just indoctrinate yourself into the club when you want to, specifically Rachel Dole-uh-zhal and this business. On the line, she's an attorney, TV correspondent, and the co-host of the Frank Ski Show on WHUR. Mo Ivory's on the line. Mo. Come on, Mo.
Wow.
It's great to be a black woman.
We've been having with all of this and Rachel, right?
Yeah.
So, but in all seriousness, whatever, there's a lot of layers to it. And I think most of all, it's a woman who's in denial of her authentic self.
Right.
And I think authentically you can, adopt certain dislikes and likes about yourself. Like, you can wear your hair a certain way. You can even dress a certain way that might have, cultural statements of one culture or another. I don't think there's really anything wrong with that. What I think is the real problem is not being able to identify clearly who you are in a country where we have a census that forces you to say who you are. So if we lived anywhere else where you could sort of roam free in whatever you wanted to adopt as your culture, your race, your nationality, I think then we'd be having a different conversation. But we live in a place where, for all kinds of reasons, for how your financial status is going to be looked at if, say, you're going for a job where diversity is something that they need to fill and they have an affirmative action policy, right? So then if you lie and say you're something, you're taking away from the disadvantaged group that really was supposed to benefit from that.
Right.
So I don't have a problem with Rachel and all the stuff in her head. I have a problem with how she portrayed that for the purposes of getting jobs, for the purposes of school. And look, I'm here at Howard University. I'm here where she sued as a white woman, saying that she wasn't getting the same opportunities as black people.
Right.
So then, to turn around and kind of not even want to say, yes, I am white. I was born white. My parents are white. I am white. But I just have a lot of cultural and identities with African Americans. That would be fine. She wouldn't have to turn into a black woman to do that.
Right. Why do you think this story has blown up the way it has?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think it's such a juicy, titillating story because it's just made for Lifetime, right?
That's what I said.
Yeah, it's just a made for Lifetime with a Rachel Dole-uh-zhal story. I once wanted to be beige. Whatever it is.
Right.
It's just that kind of a story, and I think it came at a time when we all needed a little bit of a relief from the racial tension with the police.
Sure.
But it still had the race conversation in it, but it was a little bit different, and it just came on a weekend that we all really wanted to talk about something else. The timing was impeccable.
How do people reach you?
They can reach me at Mo Ivory on Twitter. It's MOIVORY, and then at Mo Ivory Show on Instagram.
Mo Ivory, TV correspondent, attorney, and of course co-host of the Frank Ski Show. On the way, Dr. Jay Richards talks about the psychology behind all of this madness. It's going to be interesting. Stick around for more Cafe Mocha.
Dance.
It's Cafe Mocha. We are on the line with Dr. Jay Richards. We're talking about the Rachel Dole-uh-zhal issue. And Dr. Richards, I just want to get right down to it. Is she crazy?
I think it's fair to say that some very deep emotional needs are being met by what she did. I think from what I can tell about the family situation is that she may feel really profoundly that she was a disappointment to her parents because she's not black. And that sounds strange. They adopted 4 black children.
Sure. Which is very different.
It's an unusual thing that happened. That's 4 in a row. I guess they were wanting to have a family where the children would feel comfortable in a family. So eventually, there's more African Americans in it than there were white people.
Right.
But I think it had a profound effect on her. And the reason why I say that is when she was at Howard, she sued Howard, and I think she said that Howard was disappointed in her when they found out she was white. So this theme of being disappointed by the authority figures, the people who should be caring for you and that you want to feel appreciated and valued for, I think this is a theme for her. She's a resourceful, manipulative person. And, I use the term manipulation. It's not always a bad thing to be manipulative, because you have to maneuver in life and get people to do things. But I think that we won't see just one thing come out of this with her. But she's trying to raise the discussion up to a higher level. People often do this when they're in trouble.
Right.
It's not really about me, it's about something else. But she's right in many ways. She is saying that I've chosen this identity, racial identity, and the fact is that the United States culture, we created this sense of racial identity. It's the whole idea of race is, relatively new in the world. If you go back to the biblical days, they had no idea of race.
Okay.
Racism would have been unknown. They wouldn't have figured it out. Now, color, some color sensitivity, maybe color prejudice, but race, really wouldn't have caught on to that idea. And we created it, and we expect people to live it out in a certain way.
We do. We absolutely do.
I think it's really different from gender, We didn't invent gender. And even with the gender, people fall outside the norm just naturally, In reality, in biology and psychology, they fall outside the norm. So I think in her case, some developmental things happened that shifted her identity. And as a good, resourceful person, when she saw this game of race, she figured, given my life circumstances, I can really play this game at a high level.
Cafe Mocha, we are on the line with Dr. Jay Richards talking about Rachel Dole-uh-zhal and the psychology behind her wanting to be black. Talking to Dr. Jay Richards, he's a psychologist and also author of Silhouette of Virtue. Before I let you go, let me ask you this. We all tell little lies, and sometimes they get out of control. What is the best way? I'm not going to say not to lie because we're all going to do it. But how do you get out of the lie once it starts to snowball?
The common sense advice is to tell people to come clean and tell the truth. But that doesn't always work. It sometimes escalates. And I think one way to do it is to hold on to the parts of the scenario that are true. And you can hold on to the parts that are well-meaning. But eventually you have to get to the parts that aren't well-meaning and that really show a moral, deviation on your part. And then you have to admit it. You have to be, you have to show some remorse for having done that, especially if someone's been harmed by it. I think that, there is the reality that she was responsible for students. She was responsible for shaping people's identity. She's, you're supposed to uphold a certain level of integrity as a university professor. And all those things are kind of compromised, even though we can have some sympathy as to why she went that way. If she has this identity, we call it an issue, but she's taken on an identity that most people wouldn't have wanted her to have. I talked to someone yesterday on a radio show who kept saying, I can't understand why anybody would want to be black. Well,
oh, wow, that's funny.
I can understand it.
That's funny.
But he couldn't understand it.
Well, you turn on the radio stations, with the exception of country, you turn on the TV, the culture is infused into it to the degree that most mainstream middle Americans don't even see it. Talking to Dr. J.
Someone said something very insightful once, is that that black people play the soundtrack for white lives.
Wow.
In other words, the white people, they see the drama is about them, but we're the soundtrack. Mm-hmm. And you always need that soundtrack.
Interesting. Dr. Jay Richards, psychologist. His book is called Silhouette of Virtue. How do people reach you, Dr. Richards?
jrichardsbooks.com, my website, and you can get on there and you can download free chapters from my book and some other materials, and there's email available there to contact me. So that's Jay Richards Books, Jay Richardsbooks.com.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Coming up this hour on Cafe Mocha, of course, we've got the light mix. But this man, Lou Gossett Jr., has seen and done it all. What is his take on race relations in this country as he sees it? Plus, former newscaster Rolanda Watts comments on how the media is covering this.
The phone lines are wide open. Call us up at 866-357-4323. That's 866-357-4323. Let us know where you're checking in from, what song you want to hear, and more. This is Cafe Mocha.
This is Lavelle Jones calling from Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm calling in to talk about the Rachel Dole-uh-zhal issue. I'm going to be a little hard on my people, but don't be mad because someone embraces your culture more than you do. It seems in this country right now, it's okay for a white man to identify himself as a white woman, but you have a white woman who wants to identify culturally as black or African American, and we're all in an uproar like she stole something from us. There's plenty of people in Hollywood who don't want you to know that they're black. They identify themselves as being white to further their careers, and everybody's fine with it. Everybody's complaining that she's still in the culture. Put your resume up next to hers. See what she has done to forward the black agenda and what you have done. When I pose that question, most of the time I get nothing. It's easy for us to sit back and criticize. I don't completely condone what she's done, but you have to look at her work and her resume as a whole. Has she contributed to the black agenda to move us forward? And I would have to say yes. And you have to look at the agenda of those who are outing her. What is their agenda? Is it to take one more warrior from us, somebody who has our back on the battlefield? She's all in like the Cavaliers. She's married a black man. She has black children. If she wants to identify as black, so be it. She educates our black youth. She's more than giving back for those who complain that she stole an education that was to go to someone that was African American. Well, she might have done that, and I don't totally agree with that, but you have to look at what she's given back. She's dedicated her life to forwarding the causes in the black community. She's taught, so she's more than paid it forward. I say give it a break. Put your resume up to hers. What have you done?
What's being talked about on the street, online, and sister to sister is Did Y'all See? On Cafe Mocha.
So, did y'all see that Miss Tammy Romaine, the former Basketball Wives star, recently announced that she's pregnant, 6 weeks pregnant at 45 years old.
She wanted to get married. She didn't want to get married, and she doesn't want more kids. And he wanted to get married, and he wanted kids because he hadn't experienced that yet. Tammy had been around the block already. I guess now that she's giving him a baby, maybe marriage is next, and maybe they can, work it out.
Well, good luck to them. Either way, I know Tammy's giving a lot of people hope out here. 45?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Listen, good luck. God bless. That's our perspective. For more Did Y'all See, be sure to log on to MadameNoir.com.
That was Did Y'all See with the ladies of Madame Noir on Cafe Mocha. For more, check out CafeMochaRadio.com.
Cafe Mocha on the red carpet at AMA, the Africa Movie Academy Awards with the legendary Lou Gossett Jr. Now, you were in Roots. You lived through the Civil Rights Movement, Vietnam, the Black Power Movement. What do you think of the madness that happened in Charleston and the murders of Trayvon and Michael Brown and everything that's going on now?
Well, I think it's the only thing that's new is the internet. I mean, they've been killing us for many, many years and we didn't know. Now everybody knows. It becomes a big thing. Before, I remember 30, 40 years ago, couple of kids got shot down there in Crenshaw and Martin Luther King, and it was over in a day. But now it's on the internet, which is a good thing. I think God put the internet out there for us all to know what's really happening. But it's like swords inside of Jesus. The bad guy who's had things his way for centuries, it's a hard thing for him to change.
What's next? What's going on right now?
Well, it's Emmy time. There's possibilities of getting nominated from a Book of Negroes, and there's an episode of Madam Secretary, and there's a reality thing about The Haunting, and I just heard something from the Bahamas, which is part of my roots, that they're building a whole industry there. If I'm needed, I'm gone.
I heard that. Good luck on the Emmy. Angelique on the red carpet at AMA. Up next, Rolanda Watts. Now, you are a longtime newscaster. What do you think of the way the media is portraying these stories? I mean, Trayvon is a thug because he wore a hood, but this guy in Charleston is a misguided lone wolf. What do you think of this?
Well, I think that we cannot forget that these are humans telling these stories. And I'm in an industry, the journalism industry, where we are taught, we are expected to be objective, but human beings are not objective. So my experience brings a total different story than another experience. You and I are from North Carolina. We say barbecue, we know it's a noun. Everybody else thinks it's an adjective, a verb. What you got there? What you doing? Barbecuing? No, in North Carolina, it's one thing, chopped barbecue. So when we say barbecue, we're coming at it already from two different personalities, experiences. So I'm not going to fault people. I think what we need right now is our white brothers and sisters, our Asian brothers and sisters, our Latino brothers and sisters, and even some black brothers and sisters who don't want to be talking about race, to start having the dialogue. Dr. Maya Angelou used to always say, lift your voice, say it's wrong, speak out, and have courage, because the greatest of all virtues is courage. And without courage, you can't exhibit any other virtue with consistency. So America, today is the time to step it up with courage. And the young millennials, this police brutality stuff, this is your civil rights movement right now. So this is no time to say we don't have the luxury to sit back and watch it on TV. Screw what the media's doing. What are you doing?
Yes. Catch Rolanda's show Sundays with Rolanda at Rolanda.com. ROLONDA. The Espresso's up next on Cafe Mocha. The Espresso's brought to you by Embassy Suites and Homewood Suites Hilton. Next weekend is the Essence Festival and the long-awaited reunion of Flowetry. Marsha Ambrosius talks about the impact of the group.
We set trends. We made being black women from Britain fashionable. We made natural hair a thing. I didn't know that was making a statement. So we're Flowetry and all of this, whatever the rumors is, whether I left the group, whatever the reason, the fans, trust me, you don't want to know. What you do want to know is what you see right there on that stage.
Lottie Love will also be at Essence signing her book, Love 'Em or Leave 'Em, but don't get stuck with the tab.
Sometimes women don't put themselves first in relationships because they don't want the relationship to end. You have to put yourself first. Look at your happiness if you want to make someone else happy. You don't have to be afraid to be alone. There are so many people out there, wonderful, men out there that want a relationship.
I heard that, Lonnie. You can always count on Embassy Suites and Homewood Suites by Hilton to make your family reunion special. With spacious suites, free breakfast, and complimentary snacks, we've got your family covered. Visit HiltonFamilyReunions.com today.
This is Cafe Mocha, radio from a woman's perspective.
It's Cafe Mocha, MC Light of the Light Mix. We're taking you back. New Jack Swing style, big up to TR, Teddy Riley.
Oh yeah.
Here we go, come on now.
MC Light with the Light Mix, wrapping up the show. Don't forget, if you are at the Essence Festival next weekend in New Orleans, Lonnie Love is there autographing her book, Love 'Em or Leave 'Em, but don't get stuck with the tab. She says she wrote it so her girlfriends would stop calling her with their boy problems. Whatever, Lonnie. If you're in New Orleans, though, make sure you check her out. Until next weekend, you can find us on all platforms at Cafe Mocha Radio.
Cafe Mocha is a production of Miles Ahead Broadcasting in partnership with Westwood One. Executive producer Sheila Eldridge. Writer and producer Angelique Perrin. For comments, booking, and more information, visit cafemocharadio.com.